All right, I'm here with Alex Armand, who is with Prep Baseball Report now, although he spent the last few years here in the Lake area for sure. It's great to have you, Alex.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Brady. I'm excited to be on talking about another playoff run for all these teams in Southwest Louisiana.
And you've seen it firsthand. I mean, it's hard not to call this the mecca of baseball in the state with what our teams do each and every year, both in the regular season and postseason.
Yeah, it's you're right. Over the last few years, not counting last year because of COVID, obviously. I mean, really from Lake Charles into the Lafayette area, it's kind of a golden 1 hour stretch of baseball, and you could go a little north and a little south, and there's just players in every little nugget and pocket of Southwest Louisiana.
For sure. Now, look, if you can explain what PBR is and what your role is for Prep Baseball Report.
Yeah, so I am the Louisiana Scouting Director for Prep Baseball Report. And I guess the best way I could describe what we do is we try to provide high school baseball players with a platform to get their names out there and get them to be seen by college coaches at the next level. So, we put on events such as showcases, even tournaments, and really just try to help them, get out there as much as possible. So like I was telling you before we started, I've been hitting the trail really hard this spring, and it's been good. There's been a lot of good baseball.
And then from there, too, you guys also do rankings and scouting reports and all of that on the website.
Yeah, we do. We do. And the rankings are good. But what I really like about what we do is, on our web platform, each player or prospect has a profile that, has their data and their metrics, whether you're a pitcher or position player. And it's just, it's good for the prospect, the college coaches that are getting on and looking. I think we have over 800 college coaches that are subscribed. And it's good for them and the players to see their progress, in different areas over time.
And you guys do a good job because a lot of the guys we're going to talk about here that have shined out are listed somewhere on that website in terms of where they're kind of ranked over the next few years, including next year. Three of the top four players in the entire state reside right here, including the
Yeah.
number one, Gavin Guidry.
Yeah, Gavin Guidry. Whew. I don't know where to start with Gavin. I guess I'll start with him as a position player. He's obviously committed to go to LSU. He's Gavin projects out really, really well. He's 6'2", 170 pounds. As he continues to mature and, add some physicality, he's just going to continue to get better and better and better. So he's a, shortstop, hits right-handed, has a really just, smooth, athletic right-handed stroke. And then really what he's shown this spring is his ability to jump on the mound and not just be good, but be really good. I actually think his last outing a couple of days ago against New Iberia, he struck out 17, which is, it's like video game numbers, right? It's 90 to 94 with the fastball, and his breaking ball really is a plus pitch. So he's a special player.
And then from there, number three is you mentioned the kind of the nooks and crannies of the area. That's where you'll find Rose, Pine, and Iota, and each of those guys have a player with Lejeune from Iota, and then number three is Ethan Fry, the could be a quarterback if he wanted to, that kind of size and arm, but it's going to pitch for LSU as well.
Right. Look, as much as I love baseball, I love football as well. And I actually went and saw Ethan Fry and Rose Pine against DeQuincy a couple of days ago. And, when you show up to the park and you see him get in the box, I mean, 6'6", 225. I mean, just the word that comes to mind is just imposing, right? He's a giant of a human being. And I can tell you, behind the plate, he looked really, really good defensively for being such a big kid. And then, offensively, he's another right-handed power hitter, tons of strength, tons of potential. And I really like to see him on a football field as much as I've heard about him and how good he is at quarterback. And then, Tyler Lejeune, you're right.
Yeah.
Speaking of those, little pockets in Southwest Louisiana, coming out of Iota, Tyler's a middle infielder. There's a lot of people who project him more as a second baseman because the part of his game that's really good is his offense. He's a left-handed hitter, can hit for power. So yeah, he's another really, really good player, and him and Gavin Guidry will probably play together in the infield at LSU.
Well, look, there's a reason that a lot of these guys, or a lot of their teams rather, are at the top. So let's work our way down and kind of look and see what teams that we feel like maybe have a chance to make a run. We'll start in Class 5A, and obviously our best team, both in terms of national ranking and seeding, number one Barb, obviously always a tough out. And talking to Coach Cicchini the other day, I mean, it's 31-2. This is one of the better Barb teams in terms of elite prospects that I think that they've ever had.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with them. The 2014 team that had Ken Fontenot, the Jordan twins, Gunnar Leger, they finished 39-2. So this team is, on that track to do, something pretty special. So that would put them up there in terms of the best teams ever at Barb. And, with them, it all starts with pitching. We already talked about Gavin Guidry. I know everybody's probably sick and tired of hearing his name, but, Jack Walker's 10-0. Right now, he's got the best career ERA in the history of Barb, which is, it kind of makes you take a step back, especially somebody like me who's seen him grow up since he was a little kid. I mean, that's something really to be proud of and something special. And then, on top of the pitching, I was telling somebody the other day, the thing that they do so well is they play really clean baseball. When you hit a ground ball at them, they catch it and they throw you out. So, with their pitching, they have Kyle DeBarge behind the plate who transitioned from an infielder to a catcher. Such an important position, and Kyle's a spectacular player. Mixed in with all their other guys, I could,
Sure.
Some of these teams, Barb and Sam Hughes, we could talk about for an hour about, them. They've got a chance to make a run at a state title.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd mentioned it. Just about everybody in their lineup, if they haven't already gotten committed, they already have college offers. Most of them Division I college offers. Guys like DeBarge, you mentioned, Medlin, Cam Edwards. The list goes on. Those are just the seniors. And then, like you said, the pitching. It's going to be hard, I think, in a 3-game series. The way that our format is set up, you're going to have to beat either Gavin Guidry or Jack Walker head-to-head to be able to win the series.
That's right. You're going to have to beat them head to head. And then, the thing about them is, they've also got Adam Guth, the big 6'5" lefty, who his last 2 outings, he's pitched really, really well. They've got another senior in Blake Wren, who has some offers out there. He's uncommitted so far up to this point, but he's, an ultra competitor, strike thrower. So they've got some other options as well. And you're right, Brady. I mean, it's going to be tough.
And one of the teams that obviously has had some success against them just overall because they've just about as talented, Sam Houston, and what they've been able to do. Even though Coach Hebert's talked about how young this team is, they've still been able to put up a 26-6 record, nationally ranked. You've got guys like Andrew Glass, Dylan Thompson, Ashton Fusilier, Alex Norris. I mean, the list goes on. These guys will be playing college baseball as well. And this is a team that seems to be playing a little bit better now. And, I mean, they had that stretch early, and then they kind of went through a bit of a lull, but they're picking it back up again.
Right. And I, with me having, coached at Barb before in 2019, I felt like Sam Houston had a similar type of run, really hot, went through a little lull and then, got hot at the end. And, the way that the power ratings are lining up, I mean, how cool would it be if we could see, a Barb Sam Houston 5A final again? What a treat. But no, Coach Hebert, Sam Houston, I think it's a testament to him and how good of a coach he is. Whenever I've watched Sam Houston this year, the thing that really stands out to me is, yes, they are young. They play extremely hard. They're gritty, they're feisty, they're in your face, they don't back down. And that style of baseball is always going to give you a chance to win. So yes, they're a very good team.
And look, we're not going to talk about many teams that are kind of outside the top 10 because we've got so many, but one that I think is worth mentioning just because of their pedigree and how many, you never know with what they can do. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them make a run. And that's the Sulphur Tours. I mean, they're right now sitting 18. They're technically with a losing record at 16-17, but Coach Moore has had this team in Sulphur before, kind of playing on their home field. And when you've got guys like Bridges and Collins, McBride, you've got some guys that'll be playing major college baseball here. It wouldn't surprise me to see him make a run in the playoffs. So you feel that same way?
Yes, I do. And Coach Moore, another great coach in this area, his expertise or specialty is pitching, and he hasn't had his best pitcher, who is Jake Brown, who's going to LSU, the sophomore lefty. But still, in saying that, with the guys you mentioned, Kay McBride, Walker Bridges, Landon Arrant, Vinnie Collins, another lefty, you're right. I mean, you look, like you said, Brady, you get into these 3-game sets, pitching is really, really, crucial. And Sulphur has, the pitching staff and I think the depth to upset some folks and possibly make a run.
Is there anyone who else in 5A do you feel like? Because obviously we're kind of we know our area schools. Who else in 5A is going to give Sam, Barb, and possibly Sulphur if they make a run really a chase there?
Right. Yeah. The two teams that come to mind, saw him play earlier in the year is Live Oak. Barb's old assistant coach, Jesse Cassard, is the head coach at Live Oak. I think they're 28-4 right now. And then West Monroe, another team that you feel like is always there in the end. They've got a really good senior pitcher in Lane Little. And as always, they can really swing the stick. So I would say those two teams in 5A.
All right, let's move down to 4A. Not a very great year for us in the area. We've had some good DeRitter's had some good teams in the past. This year, they're kind of more of a quiet team, a little scrappy team. PV squad, I think 22-11 right now. They're ranked number 9. Dawson Abear, obviously what he can do on the mound and in the field. Ashton Broussard, a lot of these guys, we've seen them on the football field too. But what have you seen from DeRitter, and where you kind of have them sitting, do you think?
Yeah, DeRitter, DeRitter, another, I say small town team. They're a 4A school. I think they play hard. They're well coached. Yep. All the fundamentals they do right. I actually got to see one of their pitchers in January at one of our events, Trevor Cole, and he was an interesting arm, that could project to be something someday and play at the next level. So, I think it's another area team. And again, it just goes back to all the good, coaches in baseball in this area. They're going to play the game the right way and probably make a run.
And 4A is one of those classes too that I don't know why it works out this way. In football, they're as nasty as they come, but in baseball, it seems like most of the really solid 4A programs are on the private sector. And so it kind of feels like that 4A is open each year. If you can get a couple of kids and get hot, you can make those runs. And we've seen it in the past.
Yeah, and you're correct. And that's something that I don't think gets talked about enough is, the whole private and public school split. I think that whenever we used to be combined, it used to be a whole lot more, I guess I would say, competitive. There was more parity. You're exactly right. If you have a couple of key pieces on the mound and up the middle of the field, center, shortstop, and catcher, you can make a run in 4A.
And then obviously we have Leesville at 23. LaGrange and Washington don't seem to probably won't make it. So that's where we kind of sit at 4A. Then in Class 3A, as we are in just about every single sport, we are loaded once again. And that obviously starts with a little bit of the dynasty happening over there in Longville with South Beauregard. Jeremy DeVille has helped build South Beauregard into the Golden Knights to a bit of a 3A power, 27-4 again this year, looking for yet another top 2 seed in the playoffs.
Yeah. And look, I know I probably sound like a broken record, but you said, Jeremy DeVille, another great, phenomenal young coach in this area. Yep. His teams are coached up. They do the fundamental things right. They play small ball, they bunt, they don't strike out, they take tough at bats. And they have a true number 1 starter in Rhett Bowman, who I believe is going to Louisiana College. So again, South Bow, I'll go ahead and say, I think that they'll be in the state tournament this year and make another run at a state title for sure.
I don't even have the notes next to me on how many in a row that would be or in that streak. And then, we mentioned similar to what we have in terms of pitching, not only do they have Bowman, Coleman has pitched really well too. And it's one of those things you're going to have to take it with the way that the series are set up. Louisiana is so unique in that because if you've got at least 2 arms, you're going to probably have a chance to win each series at a higher rate.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I forgot about him. So you're right. I mean, South Bow's got the key pieces, to make another run.
We mentioned Iota earlier. They've slowly moved up. They didn't have a great start this season, but they've really turned it on, especially in district. They're up to 23-6 now. We mentioned Lejeune. They've got Nick Duplichin there in the infield as well. This is a team that we've seen them here before. Obviously, they were carried by, Ryborg, I believe, the pitcher a few years ago. But they're looking to make a run here as well. They're up to 4.
Yeah, Iota, you're right. Started off a little slow, but they've been playing really well here as of late. And a guy that we haven't mentioned is their left-handed pitcher, Gavin LeBlanc, who I know last week had a phenomenal complete game outing. I think it was a 3-hitter, no runs, 11 Ks, no walks. That type of left-handed pitcher, and I believe he's going to Mississippi College. I've seen Gavin throw. He's really, really good. So, yeah, I mean, Iota, with that starting pitching, and then the key pieces like Duplessis and Lejeune, obviously. They're a team to be reckoned with in the playoffs.
And then finally, our last team there in the top 5 for Class 3A. It's a team that we've seen in this spot a bunch, and even this year, despite them being 5, this is what shows you how good this scheduling is. A lot of the areas teams schedule well. They're 16-14 overall, and yet number 5 in the state in Iowa.
In Iowa, yeah. It's so funny. It's like I thought we were done with 3A, and then we have Iowa.
Still in the top 5.
Right, I know, still in the top 5.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I kind of forgot about Iowa for a second, but again, I think the theme stays the same with Iowa.
Yep.
They've been there before. Their program has a history of success. They play the game the right way. Tough, scrappy kids. I can see Iowa making a run. I mean, this would be cool if we could do this again, like before the state tournament in Sulphur, because we're probably hopefully we'll have a lot of these Southwest Louisiana teams in it.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be the same names that we'd be going through here. Laverne, Fontenot, the pitchers there, Dugas, Labriere. We've seen them be able to play it, so that's kind of where their strengths lie. In addition, there at 3A, Westlake at 11, Jennings at 12, and then LCCP kind of sneaking in. I think it's their first ever playoff appearance. It'll be for the school, so it's nice to see them being able to kind of transcend just football and what they've been able to do there. And they've had some basketball success too. Then in Division II, instead of going to 3A, we'll look at what St. Louis, another one of those districts. You talk about getting hot at the right time. St. Louis Catholic, because of that schedule, I mean, they stack that schedule just like a lot of these area teams do. Kind of a slow start since then. Red hot once they've gotten into district. 19-11 overall, number 2 in Class 2A. Fontenot's boys are playing well. Evan Gilbert there, obviously what he's doing in the box. And then you've got guys on the mound like Parker Morgan, what he's done, and then Ryan Barron as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. I talked to Coach Cicchini and Coach Abear with Sam Houston earlier in this year, and they had both played St. Louis. And both of them really said the same thing. They told me, they said, Coach, St. Louis is a really good team. The record doesn't show it at this point, but I can promise you, they're going to be a team that's going to make a run come playoff time. And, as you said, they have gotten hot. And again, they're another team. They have a senior at shortstop in Jobert, who's a really good athlete. We know what he did on the football field, but he's equally as good on the baseball field. You've got a true number 1 in Parker Morgan, the left-handed pitcher who's going to Nichols, who threw a phenomenal game, him and Rhett Bowman over there at McNeese.
Oh, yeah.
That South St. Louis game was incredible, right? And then, Ryan Barron, I know I'm forgetting some other guys. St. Louis, they've got the pitching staff, the key pieces up the middle. Yeah, they're another really good team.
And this has been a team that's been on the precipice of doing it. They've been there, but haven't quite been able to get over that hump. Do you think that this could be the team that does it?
Whenever St. Louis hired Coach Fontenot, I thought it was a really good hire. I've known Matt for a long time, and I know and I think he's made it known to his players that, they want to get over that hump. I mean, that is the ultimate goal. Right. They don't want to fall short, right? So could this be the team that does it? Do they have the pieces? Yes. Now, as we all know, we're getting into May, into playoff time. Everybody's got to play their best baseball, bring their A game every day. And I've got the confidence that St. Louis will. I'm for sure one rooting for them.
Yeah, and then speaking of and I wanted to ask you about 3A. Obviously, South Beauregard got taken over from at number 1. Who else do you think kind of contends with those? Seems like we both kind of expect at least 2 of those 3 to make it.
Right. So in 3A, I would say Sterlington, who I saw earlier this season. I think they won the state title in 2019, maybe. They struggled early on. In fact, the game I saw them against Houghton, they actually lost. But they've started to play better as of late. They really started to hit the ball. They have key pieces all over the field. William Perkins is going to ULM. Their center fielder, Parker Coley's going to Eunice. They have Seaver Sheets, former Major League All-Star Ben Sheets' son is their shortstop who's going to Auburn. They have a really good catcher in Grant Mangrum who's going to LSU Eunice. So they are a talented and loaded team, and I would be super shocked if they're not in Sulphur at the state tournament.
Looking down in Class 2A now, once again, our 2A teams, and when it comes to baseball, each and every year have been really good. Although we mentioned kind of being able to finish outside of Kinder's championships, our teams have had a problem actually finally getting over that hump. Rose Pine, number 1 seed this year so far. It looks like that they will be. I know that they've got a tough matchup against the Ritter, I think, on Friday, although with rain, I'm not sure if that one's going to be able to get in. Jeff Smith's squad's good. I think he won career, what was it, 400? Yeah, that's right, the other day. So 400 wins for Jeff Smith the other day, and the team's loaded again. I mean, it starts with Fry there at the pitching.
Yeah, it starts with Fry. He's the anchor behind the backstop. I actually, like I said earlier, I saw them play DeQuincy a couple of days ago. Braden Troll, a junior, threw for him, tons of strikes.
Mm-hmm.
He actually hit really well that day too. And then, Coach Smith's son, Jake Smith, their sophomore shortstop. Just my take. I think he is one of the top uncommitted middle infielders in that sophomore class. He's a really, really good player. And every time I see him, he just seems to get better and better and better. And, watching Rose Pine play, they did not play like a normal 2A school. And again, I think that's a credit to, Coach Jeff Smith. They're well coached. They play small ball. They can hit, they can pitch, they can do it all. I like Rose Pine's chances a lot.
And a team that's been a thorn in their side this year is what DeQuincy's been able to do. Obviously, Brady Carlson's squad, great name, by the way, gives them some issues. They're 20-8 this year. Gunnar Guerin, Cooley, Rosales, we've seen that. I've said their names 1,000 times on the football field and obviously on the baseball diamond in the last few years. This is a team that has been really good, really hungry to finally get over that hump, too. We mentioned kind of like St. Louis in that regard, because this has been a quality baseball team each and every year. Just in the postseason seems to be just a step short from where they'd want to be.
Right. Yeah. So DeQuincy, I mean, whenever I saw them a couple of days ago against Coach Smith's squad at Rose Pine, they kept the game really, really close. I think it was through 4 or 5 innings of play.
Yeah.
And again, it's because those kids, you mentioned those 2 sport athletes. That's why I love them. They competed at a very, very, very high level. And I think if DeQuincy can continue to do that in the playoffs, they're a team that can knock off, some other supposedly better teams in the state.
And then our last 2A team that's kind of there in the top 10, number 9, Kinder, technically the defending champs.
Right.
Still technically the defending champs, so make sure they get their respect there. 17-14 overall, but they schedule tough too, and so Saturate's squad does. They've got some good players. Fawcett, Cooley, Schmidt's there. I mean, basically, Kinder knows how to play ball too, and these guys have won both on the football field and on the baseball field. They've done it. I mean, they're state champions that they're playing. So even if they come in as a possible 9 seed, this is a team that you can't overlook.
No, look, if I'm in 2A and I run into, number 9 Kinder and I'm ahead of them, I'm one of the top 8 seeds. They're not a team I would want to run into. And you're so right. They load their schedule on the front end. I actually saw them play Sam Houston earlier in the year. They had to get, it's 2-2 game through 4 innings, and then Sam Houston kind of ran away with it. But another well-coached team with talented players, Landon Schmitz, Griffin Cooley. Griffin Cooley's probably one of the best up-and-coming young prospects in the area who pitches and plays outfield for them. And they're well-coached as well. That's a team, you're right, Brady, I would not want to run into in 2A. They've got the experience. They know how to win at that level. So, yeah, I agree.
And, it's kind of a brotherly act. We've seen the brothers play well, and then, it's Kinder. So you're going to see that next wave, and they seem to be just pick up where their older brothers left off, Fawcett, Cooley, and those guys. In addition to that, we've got Welsh at 10, Lake Arthur at 18, Vinton at 21, and then Oakdale and Pickering will kind of make it there on the back end. Welsh, Lake Arthur, Vinton, I wouldn't be surprised to see any of those teams kind of maybe get a little further than they should, because iron sharpens iron. You play against these teams in district. You've got some players there, too, on all 3 of those squads.
No doubt, you took the word. I mean, as you're saying this, I was literally about to spit it out of my mouth. Like, it's the truth. You play against quality teams throughout the year. Yep. Your record may not reflect it, but you're going to be better for it in the end, and with my experiences, I can directly correlate that to, District 3 5A. And some of those past years, whenever I coached at Barb, district was so strong with Barb, Lafayette, Sam Houston, Acadiana, and it's still like that, this year, not quite as much, but man, it's like playing in the SEC, right? When you come out of that, you're battle tested and ready to go.
Who else in 2A has kind of caught your eye that could give Rose Pine to Quincy Kinder trouble?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's probably gonna shock you with this response. Rose Pine, and Kinder, those are the two. I've got a lot of faith and confidence in them. I haven't really seen any 2A teams that I would say can play to their level of baseball if they show up and they have their A game every day. So, Rose Pine, Kinder fans, even DeQuincy, I like DeQuincy too, but Rose Pine and Kinder, I mean, I'm stacking all the chips in on them for 2A.
Yeah, I mean, each of those have a couple of good arms, and the series still exists there in Class 2A too. Even though the smaller rosters, they're still having to win that 3-game series to get to Sulphur. A couple of them.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, looking at Class 1A now, we've got I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the ways the split has hurt 1A sports in terms of the competitive, especially towards kind of the back end. However, we still have a couple of teams that can really play, that even if we had a full roster, these would be top 10 teams. Obviously, that starts with Grand Lake, 18-2 this year. Tyler Alton has done a nice job continuing what he's been able to take over there, and those guys have been really good. David, Massey, Walker, Fountain is just a lot of the same names that we said during the football season. We talked about 2-sport athletes. You've got to do it at a high level in Class 1A, and they've continued to do it no matter whatever field surface they play on.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned 1A because, Grand Lake's a team that in this area, they probably have the best chance out of anybody to really go make a run and win a state title. Starts with that starting pitching, David, a crafty lefty who can mix speeds, throws a ton of strikes, really like him. And then, Eli Fountain is super duper talented, can run his fastball up into the mid 80s and, even touch 87, 88. He also hits as well. So, those two lefties on the mound, when you're making a playoff run in 1A, it's going to be tough, for people to beat Grand Lake.
And they're a team, too, that's been kind of on that precipice and a chance that they can kind of get over here, too. But speaking of teams that you don't want to overlook, I think we've done that a few years ago, and we kind of paid the price. Maryville, they're sitting right now number 3 in the state, 9-15 overall. So you kind of could overlook them at a 9-15 record. But remember, a few years ago, they came in with a losing record, finished the season with a losing record, including playoffs, and won the state title.
Yeah, boy, that's I didn't know all that, Brady. Yeah. That's good info. It just it goes to show you, and I'm not sure off the top of my head who's in Maryville's district, right? But with what you just told me, Maryville again is another team that's going to be battle tested, so they're going to be ready to go when it comes playoff time.
Yeah, it was the 2018 season. They were the 11th seed. Went and 11th seed had a losing record both in district play and a losing record overall. They went, 5-0 because they don't have a series. So they went 5-0 through the playoffs. Even with the 5 wins, they were still under 500 for the season and won the state title. They had a pair of really good pitchers that year that kind of carried the way. And, and this year they've got some good kids, Owen and Canoyer. You'll see them kind of all over. And those kids can play. It's a 2-sport athletes. And, that Maryville expects to win no matter what sport it is. Their softball team's doing really well too, and so it wouldn't surprise me to see them do it again.
Yeah,
especially in 1A.
Yeah, especially in 1A. No, you're right, and that's the name of the game. Like you said, they made a run before, and this is what's so beautiful about the playoffs is like you can throw away the regular season stats, everything you've done up until this point. It's over. It doesn't matter. Everybody's got this blank slate, and it's about who's playing best. From Monday all the way through May 15th or whenever the season ends.
Also in 1A, East Beauregard at 8, Oberlin at 10. So both of those teams will have a chance. But obviously Grand Lake and Maryville and what they've been able to do, because Maryville beat Grand Lake the other day. So both those teams can play. And so it'll be interesting to see what kind of happens there in 1A. In Class B, it looks like kind of, as usual, Elizabeth has another good squad, 28-4 this year, and are mashing home runs at a ridiculous number. I think they're close to 40 now at this point already this season.
Wow.
Jason Gormanis, Slade Coleman, they've already broke the school record for home runs in a season. Both are just mashing it this season.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Slade Coleman because I think he hit his 11th home run of the season the other day. He's a kid that came to a couple of our events through the fall, and a really, talented player, coming out of Elizabeth, really, really strong right-handed hitter, good physique. So yeah, if you got guys like Slay Coleman at
Yep.
Elizabeth, you're going to be all right.
Yeah, Coleman and Germanis both over double-digit home runs in Class B this year, and they've played a handful of games, and obviously will be a tough out. They've kind of fallen in the ratings a little bit. They've had a couple of tough outings, but they've played some really good teams, so it's kind of to be expected. Also in Class B, we've got Fairview at 8, Pitkin 13, Bell City at 17, Lacassine at 18. So we'll see how they do. But someone I wanted to talk about, Singer is kind of there at the bottom, but they've got a kid that I think that a lot of people will know here in a few years, Tate Hess. He's the guy that you guys have kind of listed on that rating there, and it was 2023, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Tate Hess. It's crazy. I remember seeing Hess the first time last summer at McNeese. He was playing summer ball for Team Louisiana. And I didn't know who he was, but I started watching him pitch. I'm like, God, who is this kid? And somebody in the stands told me, yeah, it's Tate Hess. Well, where does he go to school? He goes to Singer. Really, no joke. I mean, he had a mid-80s fastball, good breaking ball, and he just looked like a bulldog on the mound, just a super competitor. So yeah, I forgot about Tate Hess for a little bit until you had mentioned his name. So yeah, that's awesome.
They're sitting at 4-12. I think they're just outside of being able to make it. Overall, the team's hasn't been able to win at the high level that they want. But I wanted to make sure that we got to mention Tate because he's a kid that I think we'll kind of hear his name a lot over the next few years.
Yeah.
And then in Class C, Starks, Reeves, 8 and 9. So both of those will have tough chances to make a deep run. They're not at least going to be the favorites. And then Hackberry and Evans there. But as you know, in Class C, Class B, it's all about getting hot. You only have to win one.
That's right.
It's one each round, and so you have that good outing by your pitcher, and you can keep on going. And then, so we'll see ultimately how those two classes kind of shake out. Do you envision a pretty consistent, pretty normal playoff run by some of these teams, or is kind of this run over the pandemic kind of will change it a little bit? Do you think, or what do you kind of envision?
That's a great question. Coming into this year, I told a lot of people that I thought this year was going to be different because of, we're coming out of the pandemic. I thought that the teams that had a lot of depth, would be the most successful teams that didn't just focus on their starting 9 every day, but worked in some of the other guys because, you never knew with contact tracing,
Yeah.
getting the virus, you may have to sit out 2 weeks, right? So as far as making a playoff run, I guess, will it be any different? Hopefully we're on the downside of this pandemic. I feel like we are. Again, I'm going to go back to this because I feel like in all my years of baseball, I've seen it every single year. The teams that are playing really good towards the end of the year and hit their stride going into May and, are playing with their hair on fire, that's usually the ones that are pretty successful. And, as you mentioned, Brady, there's a lot of area teams like St. Louis, that have started to hit their stride at the right time. So, I'll say this for all the high school baseball players out there, like I said, wipe the slate clean, and play your best baseball from here on out. That's all that matters.
Well, look, we have teams in, was it 8 different classes, and we have 11 top 5 teams. So a good chance for our teams to make a run this year.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, Southwest Louisiana is a special, special place. I've been here my whole life. I'm sure you've traveled a lot for work, but the amount of talent, like I said, is just in our community and area is really cool, and I can't wait to see it play out.
Well, I appreciate you giving us some time, Coach, and hopefully we'll talk to you again maybe once the state tournament rolls around, once we kind of are preparing for that, and I guess we'll talk about those 11 teams again. I'm sure as each of them have a chance to make a deep run, and we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll hopefully we'll be able to talk to you then.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brady.